and welcome, folks, to The Freelancer. This podcast discusses all things publishing through a social justice lens. My name is Andy Hodges. I'm a cultural anthropologist turned fiction writer and editor, and I own a book editing business called The Narrative Craft. Make sure you subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode, and sign up for my newsletter in the show notes if you want more regular updates. So today's episode is a guest episode, and this week I'm chatting with Vesna Kurilic, owner and senior editor of Shtriga Books, which is a small press in Rijeka, Croatia. Hey there.
Hiya.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about Shtriga Books? First of all, just a short introduction.
Sure. I think we're the only small press in Croatia which focuses on speculative fiction and queer stories at the same time. It's very easy to say that because there aren't that many small presses in Croatia which focus on either. And my partner, Antonia, and I have been at it for 5 years. And for 2 years now, I've been exclusively working in Shtriga as an editor,
Awesome.
freelance editor, also writer, and a book mentor, writing mentor.
That's so exciting, and I'm grinning because that is everything that I edit. Is speculative fiction and queer fiction. It's amazing. I love it. So It's great that there's a small press in Croatia that's combining these two.
Yes, we have a few stories out which are not queer, just to let folks know, but it's a minority.
Cool. So today we're going to chat a little bit about how the publishing industry works in Croatia. My first question for you is, so let's say I'm from Croatia and I want to publish a book there. What are my options? Where do I start?
Well, okay. Are you writing in Croatian or in English?
Let's say I'm writing in Croatian and I'm writing fiction.
So the first thing you need to do is meet other authors local to you to see what their experiences are and to see whether you'd be better suited for self-publishing with the book you're working on or for trying to find a publishing house. In Croatia, a lot of fiction, even speculative fiction, even queer fiction, gets published by grants, by sponsorship, by the Ministry of Culture, and also by local municipalities, etc.
Okay.
There's a lot of people who are going to pose as publishers and take your money and help you publish your book. But also, since we are in the EU, you can do whatever you want with publishing your novel. We have a print on demand option in Croatia, in Split. They do text. They do books in Croatian too, nonfiction and fiction. And also, a lot of people publish themselves, but print their books through, I think it's Books Factory, the Polish company. So there are a lot of options.
Okay, that's really interesting. And what you said about how you need to find kind of an institution that's going to believe that they can get funding for your project. That's quite different to what I've seen in the Anglo-American world, where there's very little state support and very little state funding of like literature, and also not lots of nonfiction too. And people, it's more about profit. It ends up being about profit, I think.
Yeah, and from what I understand, in Serbia, they went the other route. They went completely into the hands of the readers and market. So there's next to no state funding for fiction. So the genre market is also bigger. I mean, it's a bigger country either way.
Yeah.
But also the self-publishing scene is stronger in Serbia.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So tell me a little bit more about vanity presses, first of all, because that sounds like a significant problem.
Yes, it's a big pain point for us. Just to illustrate the issue, a couple of months ago, I got a DM on TikTok because I do a lot of TikTok videos, a lot of Instagram reels for Shtriga Edits, our freelance editing services, where a young person was wondering, they just wanted to check whether they got it right. If you want to publish something, they said, you have to pay somebody to get it published. And it was and it was a completely normal thing for them because they Googled it or somebody told them. So from then, I've started researching a couple of small presses in Croatia who pose as publishers because they are a publisher, but they're a publisher for their in-house authors. Yes, and they don't necessarily disclose that, and they don't disclose the difference from when you pay them to get your stuff published with them and when they fund everything themselves. They don't say they're a vanity press. They say they're a publisher. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is common ground with the UK and the USA. Exactly the same setup, I've heard. Yeah.
And another major issue is that they have good distribution. So their books, both theirs and those they've accepted money to publish, are available widely. So they are a viable option for people. It's just different. I think there's just a slight lack of transparency.
Okay. And do these, are they editing the manuscripts, or are they, because there's
not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay.
They're not even that small. Some of them have gotten quite big with a big production and a good readership also.
Okay.
Win some, lose some. I think they do a proofreading round, perhaps, but I'm not even sure about that. In Croatia, in the self-publishing scene, editing is a bit a matter of fiction still. It's a future thing, a future task.
Yeah, well, even in the UK and in the USA, absolutely loads of authors who self-publish don't hire an editor. And there's a whole educational process that they have to go down to get to the stage where they're willing to pay like what is substantial amount of money for an edit. So yeah, that educational work in the self-publishing space feels like it's never ending to me. But it's important. It's really important work to do. Okay, so next question. Is it true that literary agents don't exist in Croatia? And is that good, bad, or a bit of both? What are your thoughts?
It's not precisely true, but from what I heard in the past couple of decades or something, there's at least one, perhaps two agencies who work with people trying to get their works published abroad. So not in Croatia, for the Croatian market, but for the wider market. I think they help people get translations and push their books outside Croatia. But if you're publishing in Croatia, there's no such thing as literary agents. I mean, in Croatia at the moment, there's a little under 4 million people, I think, according to the last census
similar to Scotland.
Yeah. So I'm not sure who the agents would be for. Also, obviously, it means that the in-house editors and people who select novels to publish for the Croatian market, they have their work cut out for them. It's harder for them because the middle person who would vet the manuscript doesn't exist.
Okay. And it used to be, well, I don't know, agents in the UK have had apparently it goes back to Victorian times. Don't quote me on that. But it's been a real issue, that whole direct thing, and then having to direct submissions, receiving lots of manuscripts from near beginner writers, and it's really must be really difficult. So kudos to those people who are doing that important work. This is just my feeling, and I don't know if you'll agree with it or not, but I have this sense that the genre and literary fiction worlds are a bit more separate in Croatia than in the UK and the USA. Like in the UK and USA, sometimes a genre fiction author will then like cross over and write a lit fic book, but it feels a bit more, dare I say it, like elitist, the literary fiction scene in Croatia. So I wondered if you could talk about your take on all of that.
Yes, my take is snobbery. Is that a word in English? Snobbery and gatekeeping. In Croatia, it doesn't really matter how well educated you are. It matters more if you appear educated. So in Croatia, in the book market, there's fiction and there's self-fiction. So there's literary fiction or mainstream and everything else.
Okay.
And it's a big issue. I used to work as a librarian in the Rijeka City Library as a public librarian for 10 years. My biggest issue was with dystopia as a genre or a subgenre, because dystopia is harder to read sometimes than regular sci-fi. It tackles heavier subjects sometimes than regular sci-fi, etc. And my colleagues used to be very certain that dystopia is not sci-fi. In fact, dystopia is fiction. It's literary fiction.
Literary fiction.
And when I try to tell them that dystopia is, with us, the rest of us, firmly on the side of sci-fi, no, they wouldn't listen. And literary fiction gets all the accolades, gets most of the publicity and news feed space. And everything else is just like pulp fiction. And the only way to get a wider acceptance, if you're reading genre fiction, if you're writing genre fiction in Croatia, is to be very, very successful at it.
Okay.
The biggest small press, they're not even that small anymore, in Croatia for genre fiction is Inamorata. It started with a lady, her name is Ina, who self-published her fiction, her novels, her romance novels on Wattpad, and then started a publishing company. And now she publishes her colleagues and several other genres. They've also added like illustrated books for kids. So they're really branching out. And people know of her, but still, like, they don't read her. Only the people who read romance read her. Nobody else reads her, but everybody knows who she is and what she does.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely put a link to that publishing house in the show notes. And that is interesting. That does fit my limited experience because I like a bit of both. I like stuff at the intersection between genre and literary fiction. And it feels like that will be difficult in Croatia.
And a lot of people who do write a mishmash or a mix of both don't advertise it. They advertise it as literary fiction. Even if all of the short stories in a certain single author collection are genre fiction, they're never going to say it.
Okay. That's really interesting. Yeah. Okay. That gives me some food for thought as well when I'm planning like translations and things like that. Big question now. What do you think Anglo publishing, because I know that you know quite a lot about the Anglo-American publishing world as well. What do you think it could learn from how things are done in Croatia?
We're still big on collaboration, on working together, on coming together in smaller or bigger groups to publish something and to do something. There is, we're working towards the US-centric view of the world when it's every person for themselves, but we're still not there. We might not even get there anytime soon. And if you need help, you can get help. It's also not that I have a feeling, since I'm in genre fiction, exclusively in genre fiction, I have a feeling that writers don't really see everybody else as a person who's going to take their part of the cake.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's still more like, let's work on this together. Let's try a multiple author collection and see if it gets funded, etc. And I think that's useful. It's not exclusively a Croatian thing, and it doesn't really go against what I know about the US and UK publishing, but I still think it's a strength for us. And also, we don't really wait for other people to do something for us. We do stuff. Since everything is harder, you gotta do it yourselves, and we are those people.
No, I can think of several examples from when I was living in Croatia and in Serbia, but that taking the self-initiative, and that can be really powerful. And I think that works well with the self-publishing ethos as well. Like figuring stuff out and taking that initiative. Yeah, and on the collaboration, that makes a lot of sense. That also matches my experience living in Croatia. And having read novels like Yellowface, it's clear to me that there is like what I'd call a nasty grad school / competitive side to the fiction world as well. I imagine that's particularly strong in literary fiction, but I don't know. I'm not immersed in those worlds in the USA or the UK. And the editing community is incredibly collaborative. That's one thing that I've noticed. And the genre fiction community feels quite collaborative as well. So I guess there's not like all these prizes and awards. Well, there are still prizes and awards, but they're not quite, there's not quite as much riding on them. Like literary fiction authors are often very focused on the recognition of a particular award, I think.
It gets them news space. It gets them headlines, interviews, daytime TV features, which are still a big thing in Croatia.
Yeah, so it all makes sense as well. It's not recognition for recognition's sake. It's a passport to certain opportunities. So yeah. Okay. And is there anything you think that Croatian publishing could learn from the Anglo publishing world? Is there anything that you've noticed that seems particularly good there?
Editing.
Editing, okay.
Yeah, in-house editing, especially having a higher standard for what gets published. I mean, the differences are not exactly measurable because the markets are so different in size. Like we're minuscule, and the rest of the world, especially Anglo publishing, is huge. I would really, really like for us to have a set of professional or more professional standards regarding editing in Croatia.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when somebody puts their name in your book as your editor, they're not going to be your editor. They're just going to be a person who holds the title of editor for your line, your publishing line, where you're publishing with, etc. And don't really like that.
Yeah. One thing I noticed that I do like in Croatia is having this, I think you call it an impressum. It would be called an imprint.
It's an impressum, yes.
Yeah. And you always name the copy editor in those imprints.
If you have them.
Yeah.
If you have that person, from my experience, it's more the case where you're going to have a proofreader, a lector.
Yeah.
And you're going to name that person. I think that's the only person I've seen listed in most of the books I've ever read in Croatian. Because we are obsessed with grammar.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. But just that naming of the proofreader / copy editor, you don't get that very often in Anglo-American fiction. Sometimes the author will say, I want to name them in the acknowledgements. And that's really cool when that happens. And at the end of the day, I was just going to say, I think that getting paid well is more important than necessarily being named for an edit, but it's nice. And other people can then find that editor, and like if they did a good job, they might want to work with them, that kind of thing. So
I always read the acknowledgements, and all of my favorite authors list everybody. I think it's a very good practice. Yeah,
my experience working for traditional publishers is maybe between 20 and 40% would name like a lot of the copy editors. But if it's just a proofread, that's quite rare, maybe 10% or less, something like that. But yeah.
That's different. Yeah, that is.
It is quite different. So, and I think that my sense, having lived in Croatia and living in the UK, is that language is valued more highly in Croatia than in the UK. I think in the UK, it's just seen as something that should be done for a text.
The proofreading thing, the lector thing in Croatia is also because we had to reinvent our language quite literally black and white on paper, 1990s, after we split from Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
An even bigger emphasis was put in schools, in primary education, most notably on knowing the rules for Croatian. And it didn't help people actually learn the rules. All it did was tell people get even more scared of making mistakes in Croatian, in their own mother tongue. Yeah. Anyway, it's a different subject.
That's a really important topic. Purism and prescriptivism in the language, and that's big as well. But yeah, we'll save that for another episode. So just to finish this episode off, tell us a little bit more about Shtriga Books. What does Shtriga mean? Just tell me everything.
So do you want the TV show Supernatural version of what a Shtriga is?
Yes.
Or do you want a local Istrian version from Croatia?
Both.
So a Shtriga is probably a bastardized version of the Italian strega, which literally means witch, which is one of the versions you had on Supernatural on the TV show episode. And locally in Croatia and further, a Shtriga is like a very bad supernatural entity, most usually female, although we have the Shtrigun, which is the male version, who does something bad to people around them. They make your milk curdle, if that's the term, earlier than necessary. They poison your cows, they curse you, and the only way to banish them or to fight them is with the help of a kersnik, which is a local version, I think, of The Witcher, a more famous Slavic version of the supernatural fight. Also, Shtriga is a very poisonous centipede from the forest. We put something we're really afraid of in our header as our logo, as our company name, Shtriga. We publish speculative fiction in English mostly by local authors, local to us, which has been written in English. We don't do translations. I don't understand it. Like, how could you write in English if you're a Croatian speaker first? And all of us have been immersed in English even before the 1990s, before the internet, before Facebook even. So it's really easier than people think. And then when they read them, our books, they say like, this sounds okay. Like, well, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's really cool about working with English and also with local authors, because it's one way of like dismantling the kind of myth of the native speaker as a gatekeeper, guardian of the language, which is another toxic language myth. I'm curious because I used to do sociology of language stuff. So I asked literary agent in the UK whether they frequently work with multiliterate authors, so authors who are writing in English as a second language. And the overwhelming vibe I got from them was that yes, they do, and they welcome like that. There are small differences because the English is informed by the other languages that they know, but that brings beauty to the language. It brings creativity. So it's really cool. I really like that. And my last question is, what are the challenges linked to running a small press in Croatia, and especially one that centers queer stories and authors?
Marketing is different.
Okay.
We have to be careful what we say in our PR releases and who we say to. Some of our authors don't want to have a book signing in their local areas because of that, because the communities are different and not as open as we would like to portray them, since we are a part of Europe. I mean, like the furthermost border part, but still. Also, I don't know. I think the biggest challenge was for us, for Antonia and me and Shtriga specifically, was learning the business side of things. Because we came from arts and culture, but not from business and not from publishing. We were writers first, and taxes and Excel tables, Excel spreadsheets were all hard for us.
It's really boring.
Too many numbers, and being patient and learning marketing too. So business and marketing, the same as everybody else, I think.
Yeah, that's the same as everybody else. I was saying to a friend, I think when I started, I was excited to learn all the business admin stuff, but now I just found it really boring. I'll just be brutally honest. Marketing's like, it's more fun. It's interesting because so there's always something changing with it. That's the thing that makes it interesting. But business admin's pretty much the same. You just have to fill in the forms and learn about VAT and boring stuff like that.
The part I found the most fun was learning copywriting.
Okay.
Because I was a writer for like 25 years or something, fiction writer, before I had to learn to write copy, and I'm still having a lot of fun with it. It's like really, really a lot of
fun. I love copywriting as well. And especially because I used to work as an academic. Academic writing is like the opposite to copywriting. Like, so.
Make it boring, sorry. Make it valuable. Sorry.
Valuable, not boring, valuable. Yeah. Okay, we're going to wrap up this episode now. So thank you very much for being a guest on this show. I will have you back, not in the next episode, but in the one after that, where we will be discussing gendered language and how that works in English and Croatian, and non-binary characters and authors in fiction as well. So looking forward to having you back in the studio for that. In the meantime, for everyone else, if you've been listening this far in, please, please, please sign up and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the future episodes. And I'll see you all next time.